Hi everybody, this is Trent Randall from Peru State College, and I will be reading you today Fractions in Disguise. This is written by Edward Einhorn. Some kids collect baseball cards. Some collect action figures. Me, I collect fractions. I've been collecting them for exactly 2/3 of my life. In my bedroom, shelves full of fractions cover 3/4 of the walls. Maybe it's because I was born during a half moon, or maybe it's because I'm 1/4 genius, 1/4 stubborn, 1/3 determined, and 1/6 crazy. But for me, it all adds up to one thing. I can't get enough of those darn fractions. So when a brand new 5/9 went up for auction, you know I was first in line to buy it. The 5/9 is a thing of beauty. When you first look at it, it looks just like a half, but the more you look, the more you realize it's just a little bit more. The room was filled with the regular customers, Baron von Mathematic, Madame de Geometrique, and the mysterious Dr. Brock, a former university professor rumored to have been fired for the illegal possession of a 4/0. I bid $500,000. Madame de Geometrique bid $750,000. Baron von Mathematic bid 7/8 of a million. Our bids were clearly approaching $1 million. Would we ever reach it? Suddenly, we found ourselves in darkness. "There's foul play afoot," cried the Baron. His fears proved true. When the lights went back out, the 5/9 was nowhere to be seen. Neither was Dr. Brock. "Alas, he's stolen it," exclaimed Baron von Mathematic. "He never gets his fractions fair and square," agreed Madame de Geometrique. "But how can he hope to hide it?" I asked. "He is a master of disguise, Mr. Factor," Madame de Geometrique explained. "He can take a half and turn it into a 2/4 or a 3/6. It's still the same fraction, but it looks different." "So am I to understand that he could take a 3/5?" I began. "Multiply the 3 by the 4 and the 5 by the 4, continued Madame de Geometrique, "and still have something that looks like a 12/20? I concluded. "But it's still 3/5 really," Madame de Geometrique agreed. "He just doesn't want you to know it." "My poor beautiful fraction," wailed Baron von Mathematic. "Don't despair," I said. "I have an idea." That night I worked till dawn. By morning I had what I needed: a reducer. What is a reducer? It's half ray gun and half calculator, made from a whole lot of paper clips, a whisk, some discarded computer parts, and sheer ingenuity. What does it do? It removes the disguise from a fraction and reduces it to its lowest terms. I tested it out that morning. For a long time, I had owned a 10/15, but I suspected that it could be another fraction in disguise. I pointed the reducer at it and dialed a 2. The top number, or numerator as we call it in the trade, wavered, trying to turn into a 5, but the bottom number, or denominator, stayed the same. I dialed a 3, and the denominator tried to transform into a 5, but the numerator wouldn't budge. I dialed a 4 and nothing happened. Finally, I dialed a 5. The fraction changed completely. The 10 became a 2 and the 15 became a 3, leaving me with a sleek 2/3. The reducer was ready to go. Dr. Brock lived in a mansion that had to be 1/10 of a mile tall. When I rang the bell, he opened the door halfway. "Let me in, Doctor," I told him. "I know you have the 5/9 in there, and I'm going to find it." Come in," he purred. "Take a look around. You'll see no 5/9 in here." I went in and there were fractions everywhere, piled on shelves, bursting from the cupboards, covering the floor. There was even an enormous 100/100 hanging from the ceiling. Quickly I spotted my first fraud. "That 3/21, I said. "It's really a 1/7, isn't it?" I pointed my reducer at the fraction and dialed a 3. Both the numerator and denominator were divided, and now I had a 1/7 before me, as I had suspected. "That's a very interesting device you have there," commented Dr. Brock, eyeing the reducer nervously. "Ingenious, really." I found a few more fractions that could be reduced. An 8/10 became a 4/5, and a 2/16 became a 1/8, and an 11/22 became a half, but no 5/9. I even looked through the garbage, full of old fractions and fraction pieces so small they were worthless. I found a piece from a 1/28 and a 1/63 and a 1/92. The 5/9 was nowhere to be seen. There was something I was missing. Well, it was nice of you to visit, Dr. Brock began saying. I would invite you to stay longer, but I was just about to polish all my This 1/63rd, where did it come from? I interrupted. It's just an old broken fraction, sputtered Dr. Brock. Quickly, I raced back to the 34/63. The tiny 1/63rd fit perfectly into it, making the fraction a 35/63. This was a fraction that could be reduced. Wait, no, cried Dr. Brock. But it was too late. I had already pointed the reducer and dialed a 7. The 35 became a 9 while the 63 divided and became a 9. There it was, right in front of me, the 5/9 I had been looking for. Very clever, Dr. Brock said with a sneer. I didn't think you had it in you. He raced up the stairs and unhooked a rope. Suddenly, the 100/100 above me began falling, and all 100 pieces of it looked like daggers. I dialed the reducer up to 100, aimed high, and jumped for cover. The solid disc landed with a clatter and rolled away. The 100/100 had become a single whole, no longer a fraction at all. But Dr. Brock was gone. Baron von Mathematik and Madame de Geometrique couldn't believe it when I told them the story. You did it, Mr. Factor, the Baron cried, saluting me. The fraction is yours, said Madame de Geometrique. You earned it. I put it in the most prominent place on my top shelf, right next to the reducer. Now every morning when dawn comes, the first ray of light through my window lands right on the 5/9. It doesn't look half bad. That is the story, boys and girls. Thank you all for joining me. I will also have posted on my YouTube site a mini lesson in math shortly after this. Thank you.